It is 1894. Off the coast of Brittany, in a lonely stone tower battered by storms, lives a man named Etienne. His title is simple, lighthouse keeper. But in truth, he is guardian of two eternities, the sea and the night. He did not choose this life. The sea chose him. After the war took his brother and the city took his work, only the ocean remained. The lighthouse paid little, but it asked for everything. Each evening, he climbs 137 steps to light the great lamp. His hands smell of kerosene, his boots echo on stone. At the top, he polishes glass until it gleams like a star caught in iron. And then, he waits. Outside, the foghorn moans. Inside, silence presses against his ribs. Sometimes, Etienne writes letters, not to send, but to remember. He writes to his brother, "Tonight the waves are high. I heard your voice in the spray. Do you remember the songs we sang as children?" Other nights he sketches the sea. Always the same horizon, always different. One drawing is marked, December 3rd, a whale passed at dawn. Another, February 19th, silence thicker than fog. But solitude is not absolute. On the mainland, 2 miles away, a woman named Claire tends the supply station. Once a month she rows out with bread, oil, and letters. She is younger than Etienne, with hands calloused from rowing, eyes sharp from watching tides. She never stays long, but each visit brings warmth, a story, a laugh, a reminder that the world still breathes beyond the walls of stone. Etienne never tells her, but he circles her arrival day on every calendar page. Not for love, not yet, but for proof that he is not entirely forgotten. Winter is cruel that year. Storms batter the tower for days without pause. Etienne marks each one in his logbook. January 12th, waves taller than the lamp. January 13th, windows trembling. January 14th, I thought the sea would swallow me. On the 15th, the glass shatters. Salt water floods the lantern room. The flame sputters, then dies. Etienne scrambles down the stairs, searching for oil, for matches, for anything. He knows, without the light sailors are blind. Without the light ships will crash. Hours pass. No flame, only waves, striking stone like drums of war. In the dark, Etienne prays, not to God but to his brother. Keep them safe, keep me steady, don't let me fail. By dawn the storm breaks. Claire's boat appears, carrying not only supplies but a replacement lens. She finds him shivering, drenched, his hands cut and bleeding from broken glass. Empathetic, she does not scold him. She cleans his hands, lights the lamp herself, and whispers, "Even the strongest lights need tending." In that moment, something shifts. The sea still roars, the loneliness still lingers, but Etienne is not alone. Years later, sailors would write in their journals about the great light at Brittany, the one that never failed, even in the fiercest storms. They would never know of the man who nearly lost hope, or the woman who kept him standing. But we know, and we carry their silence tonight. Maybe you too are tending a light no one else can see. Maybe storms have rattled your glass. Maybe loneliness has echoed in your chest. But remember, even the strongest lights need tending. And someone, somewhere, is glad that you shine. Thank you for sharing this hour with me. If these stories bring you peace, I'd love if you subscribed. There are many more lights in the dark, waiting to be remembered. Until next time, may your light never go out. Our story begins in 1911. In Rome, the sun shone bright on the station, its iron arches gleaming, as a brand new luxury train prepared for its maiden voyage. It promised speed, elegance, and comfort. Its destination, Milan, its future, unknown. At noon, the train departed, 100 passengers aboard. By evening, it had vanished, not derailed, not destroyed, simply vanished. Picture the scene, families waving goodbye, porters loading trunks, children pressing their faces to glass windows, thrilled for adventure. The whistle blew, long and proud, and the train rolled northward. Among the passengers was Signora Bellini, a widow dressed in black silk. She carried a small diary, where she wrote of everything she saw. A scholar named Professor Malfatti, carrying manuscripts. 2 brothers, Carlo and Lorenzo, hopeful young men with dreams of business.
Dozens of others, merchants, lovers, travelers of every kind. The first hours passed in comfort, velvet seats, wine poured in silver cups, conversations drifting like smoke. But as dusk fell, clouds gathered over the Apennine Mountains. Witnesses in nearby villages recalled a sudden silence on the tracks, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then, the train entered a tunnel. It did not come out. 2 days later, villagers spoke of a strange sight, a train gliding silently through mist. No smoke, no sound, lights glowing faintly green, as if submerged under water. Faces pressed against windows, pale, still, watching. Authorities searched the tunnel. They found no wreckage, no luggage, no passengers. The tracks entered the mountain, and then emerged empty on the other side. Near the tunnel mouth, a diary was discovered. The final words of Signora Bellini. I hear the whistle still, but it bends, as though the air itself is curving. The lamps flicker. The seats are trembling. Her pen trailed off mid-line. The ink bled as if torn away. She never finished her sentence. Engineers claimed faulty rails. Officials suggested a collapse hidden deep in stone. But no rubble was ever found. No cracks in the mountain. No sign of disaster. Slowly, explanations grew stranger. Some whispered of hidden caverns. Others of time itself folding open, swallowing the train. Writers compared it to the Flying Dutchman, the ghost ship of the seas. In villages near the Apennines, people claimed that on foggy nights you could still hear the whistle, low, distant, calling. Decades passed, the legend remained, and then, in 1955, half a continent away, the train appeared again. In Ukraine, near Poltava, a railway worker saw lights floating down abandoned rails. He thought it a trick of fog, until he recognized the design. Italian carriages of another age, their paint cracked, their lamps glowing faintly. Inside sat men in bowler hats, women in Edwardian gowns, children clutching toys from another century. Their faces were pale, unmoving, pressed to glass as if trapped in amber. The worker tried to follow, but the train dissolved into mist. The tracks themselves ended only a few hundred meters ahead. His diary, discovered after his death, read, "They are still traveling, still lost. I do not know if they know." The lost train was sighted again in the 1960s, this time in Germany. A farmer near Dresden swore he saw lanterns floating through his fields. He claimed he heard wheels clattering on rails that had been torn up years before. His cows panicked. His dog would not leave the barn for days. In 1981, a group of hikers in the Carpathians reported hearing a whistle echo through the valley. When they looked, they saw a train standing motionless on tracks that no longer existed. Its doors were open. Its seats were empty. Yet a table inside held a half-finished meal. Bread, wine, cheese, untouched since 1911. When they stepped closer, the train vanished. Only the smell of smoke and iron lingered in the air. What became of the passengers? Some say they are caught in an endless journey, neither alive nor dead, preserved in a loop of time, a mistake in the weaving of the world. Diaries and notes attributed to them surface from time to time. A letter signed by Carlo, one of the brothers, appeared in an Italian archive in 1978. It read, "We are moving, always moving, yet the stations are not real. The clocks have no hands. I fear we are forgotten." A second letter, from Professor Malfatti, described landscapes he had never seen before. A sky of black glass, rivers without water, shadows that do not move. His handwriting grew shaky, ending with, "The whistle never stops." Perhaps the lost train is not cursed. Perhaps it carries something the world was not ready to release. Memories too heavy to rest. War came to Europe only years after 1911. Entire generations would vanish into trenches, leaving behind unfinished journeys of their own. The lost train, some believe, became a vessel of memory, carrying all who could not arrive where they hoped. Widows searching for their husbands, scholars chasing knowledge, brothers dreaming of futures, all of them preserved, rolling through endless fog. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to sit inside such a carriage, to watch the countryside dissolve outside your window, to hear the clock above your seat tick once, then stop, to taste wine that never warms your throat, to sense that the world beyond has slipped away? Would you know you were lost, or would you simply keep traveling, waiting for a station that never comes? In the year 2009, reports surfaced in Italy once again. Travelers near Modena described seeing a train glide across a disused viaduct. Its windows glowed. Some swore they heard voices singing an old Italian lullaby. When police investigated, they found nothing but cold air and rails covered in moss. Yet the legend endures. Every few years, another sighting, another whisper, another whistle. Perhaps the lost train is a warning. that not every departure finds its station, that not all who travel will arrive. Perhaps the lost train is a warning, that not every departure finds its station, that not all who travel will arrive. But perhaps it is also a reminder, memory itself travels. Even when bodies are gone, journeys echo, and those who vanish are never entirely lost. So tonight, as you listen, remember, not all trains carry passengers you can see. Some carry grief, some carry time, some carry echoes of lives that once were. And if you ever find yourself at a quiet rural station, and a whistle drifts through fog at midnight, listen carefully, count the cars, see if the light feels too pale, the wheels too silent, and if you choose to board, know this, the journey may not bring you back. But you, friend, are safe tonight, here, on this side of the story, where rails are only memory, and whistles only echoes. Thank you for traveling with me through the shadows. If this brought you peace, or wonder, I'd love if you subscribed. There are many more ghostly journeys waiting, many more forgotten passengers to remember. Until next time, may every train you board carry you safely home. Our story begins in the mud and thunder of 1916. The Great War had swallowed Europe. Millions of letters crossed borders every day, but not all of them reached home. Some were lost, some were burned, and some were hidden, because their writers knew the truth was too heavy to send. Tonight, we will follow those forgotten letters, and listen to the voices that still linger between the lines. Her name was Clara, a nurse stationed near Verdun. She was 24, younger than many of the soldiers she treated. Her days were filled with blood, screams, and silence that came after death. One evening, under dim candlelight, she wrote to her younger sister, "Dearest Anna, I do not write to tell you of death, though it surrounds me. I write of smaller things. The way the rain here smells of iron. The way one boy no older than your brother asked me if he would live, and I could not answer. I held his hand, I stitched his wound, but I had no words. Forgive me if I cannot come home yet. The war will not release me." She folded the letter, stained with a faint smear of blood, but she never posted it. It remained in her trunk, discovered years later by strangers. Anna never read her sister's words. In the same year, in the trenches of the Somme, a soldier named James Whittaker pressed paper against a wooden plank as shells thundered above him. "My dearest Eleanor, the guns are loud tonight, yet I dream of silence. I dream of you, wearing the yellow dress, laughing by the river. Last night, in sleep, I felt your hand in mine. When I woke, the smell of gas filled the trench, but for one moment, I was home. If I do not return, know that the happiest man alive was the one who loved you." James never returned. The letter was found tucked in his coat. Eleanor lived until 87, never remarrying, waiting for a voice that never came. Perhaps she felt it still, somewhere inside her heart. The letter he wrote but never sent. Not all letters belonged to soldiers. In Madrid, in 1917, a boy of 9 named Thomas wrote to his father, who had gone to fight with foreign volunteers, "Papa, when you come home, will you bring me a toy horse? I have made a stable from boxes, and I am waiting. Mama says you are very brave. I want to be brave too. Come home soon, Papa. I have saved a place for you at the table." His father never returned. The letter was found decades later, among his belongings. He had carried it close to his heart until the day he died. Thomas grew older, but he never spoke of his father again. The silence was its own kind of letter. In the final year of the war, 1918, a French soldier named Lucien began writing not to a person, but to the future. He did not believe his words would ever reach the living, so he wrote for whoever might find them. "To whoever finds this, know that we were here. We walked through mud and fire. We loved, even as we died. Do not remember only the guns. Remember the violin played in secret, the bread shared between enemies, the laughter that rose even under falling shells. Remember us not as soldiers, but as men." His words were discovered in 1962, sealed in a rusted tin box hidden beneath floorboards. By then, the world had already endured another war. Did anyone remember them as he asked, or were his words too late? In 1920, 2 years after the war, a bundle of unsent letters was found hidden in a house in Lille. They belonged to Marguerite, a woman who had lost her husband. She had written to him every week, though she knew he was gone. "Henri, today I baked the bread you loved. I cut it in two and left half for you, as if you might walk through the door. The neighbors call me foolish, but I cannot eat without you. Sometimes I sit at the table and speak as though you are listening. Do you hear me? I believe you do. Come back, Henri, even if only in a dream." More than 200 letters, tied with a ribbon, were found after her death. None had been sent. The ribbon had faded, but the ink was still alive. What do these forgotten letters mean? Were they simply words lost to time? Or were they gifts meant for us, for the future, for those willing to listen? Perhaps they remind us that even unspoken words hold power, that silence too can speak, that love written on paper, even unread, leaves a mark that does not fade. And maybe in listening tonight we become the
recipients. Maybe these words, delayed by a century, have finally found their way home. To you, to me, to all of us. Tonight, we walked among letters never delivered. Clara's unsent note to her sister, James's last words to Eleanor, Thomas's innocent plea, Lucien's message to the future, Marguerite's endless devotion. They never reached their destinations, but they reached us. If you too carry words unspoken, let them remind you, silence is not the end. Even unshared, even unread, your words matter. Thank you for joining me tonight. If this story brought you peace, I'd love if you subscribed. There are more quiet histories to share, more voices still waiting in the dark. Until next time, sleep softly. Our story begins in the year 1871, on the edge of the Carpathian Mountains. A village named Drajov, small and unremarkable, stood by a river that no longer flows. It had maybe 200 souls, farmers, blacksmiths, children who ran through fields of wheat. They lived simple lives, untouched by the great wars of empires, or so they thought. On a night in late autumn, a fog rolled in from the mountains. By morning, the village was gone. Travelers passing through days later found only empty homes, beds still made, soup bowls half filled, cold on wooden tables. A single candle burned itself down to wax, unattended. Chickens wandered through abandoned yards. The people of Drajov had vanished. Records describe the search that followed. Soldiers arrived, expecting rebellion or plague. They found nothing. No blood, no bodies, no signs of struggle, just silence. Even the dogs were gone. But one object was left behind in the chapel. A book of hymns, its last page torn, as if in haste. Written on it, in a trembling hand, were the words, "We follow the bells." What bells? None were ever found. As weeks passed, rumors spread. Some said the villagers had fled from disease. Others whispered that the river itself had swallowed them, its waters cursed by something older than men. A few believed they had walked willingly into the fog, drawn by a sound only they could hear. In the spring of 1872, shepherds in a valley 2 days' walk away claimed to see people moving at dusk, not travelers, not gypsies, but pale figures, walking in a line, silent, carrying lanterns that glowed too dim to be fire. The shepherds swore they recognized faces from Drajov, but when they followed, the figures vanished into trees that led nowhere. The shepherds refused to return. By the end of that year, Drajov was erased from maps. Authorities called it superstition. Yet travelers continued to report strange encounters. A woman weeping by the roadside, who vanished when touched. A child's voice singing in the fog with no body to follow. In 1899, nearly 30 years later, a railway worker found a bundle of letters sealed in an iron box near the old ruins. They were written by Father Yan, the village priest. The last one read, "The bells sound again. They call us to leave. I cannot resist much longer. Forgive me, God, if I am weak." No one ever discovered what he meant. The ruins of Drajov remain, crumbling stones swallowed by moss, paths that lead nowhere. And locals still warn their children not to linger after dark, because sometimes, if the night is quiet enough, you can still hear it. Faint chimes in the distance, like church bells carried on fog. But here is the question I leave with you tonight. Did the people of Drajov die, or did they cross into another place? Did the fog steal them, or did they choose to follow the sound, leaving behind their world for another? Perhaps they are still walking, lanterns in hand, forever moving toward bells that never stop ringing. And maybe, when you walk alone in mist, and the air is too still, and you feel the strange urge to follow something unseen, you too are hearing what they once heard. Tonight we remember them, not as a ghost story, not as superstition, but as human lives, fragile and mysterious, swallowed by silence yet still whispering to us. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the fog. If this story gave you peace or wonder, I'd love if you subscribed. There are more lost histories to share, more voices waiting for someone to listen. Until next time.
Welcome, dear friend, to this quiet moment in time. Whether you're drifting off to sleep or simply slowing your mind before bed, I'm honored you've chosen to spend these next few minutes with me. Where are you listening from? What hour finds you tonight? These gentle stories often gather listeners from every corner of the world. A reminder that no matter how far apart we are, time and memory have their own way of bringing us closer. Let's take a soft breath together now and begin. It is the spring of 1923. The air in Montparnasse carries the scent of tobacco, wine, and damp cobblestones. The Great War has ended, but its echoes are still alive. In the hearts of men, in the tremors of women, in the faces of strangers on every Parisian street, in cafes tucked behind bookstores and fading apartment blocks, A new generation is gathering. Poets, painters, soldiers turned storytellers, refugees of their own minds. Some seek rebirth in color, in words, in music. Others seek oblivion. Let me introduce you to someone. Her name is Renee. She was a nurse in the war. Verdun, mostly. Her hands were steady then, her voice sure. But since she arrived in Paris, something in her has shifted. The nights are too quiet now. The screams she once soothed in hospital tents now echo inside her chest, unanswered. She draws in the evenings, sketches that begin as flowers and often end as shadows. André sits in the back of Le Minuit Café, a poet, or so he says. The war took something from him too, not a limb, not an eye, but the rhythm of things. He tries to find it again, in words, in women, and in substances. Heroin, not glamorous, not poetic, just a quiet detour into nothing. No loud drug dens, just murmurs, favors, little trades of pain for peace. It begins as tea, then wine, then whispers. Would you like to feel nothing at all? Renee says yes, not because she is reckless, but because she is tired. They meet each night. A sketchbook, a notebook, a dose, then silence. Empathetic, in that silence, a bond. Not love, not yet, but shared vanishing. The war gave them no medals, only a hunger to forget. Renee's hands begin to tremble. The heroin no longer brings peace, only more need. André's verses become chaos, beautiful chaos, critics say. But he knows, it's not poetry, it's unraveling. One evening, Renee doesn't come. He waits. An hour, then two. The cafe empties. Still, no Renee. She is gone. Whether by death, or escape, or surrender, she is gone. He walks home, opens a window, breathes. It's the first breath in years that doesn't hurt. The poems return, slower, softer, more human. He writes, you don't need the drug to feel, you just need to be willing to feel, even when it hurts. Now, we return to you. Maybe you too have carried something heavy. Maybe you've buried it beneath silence, distraction, or routine. But here, tonight, we remember, you don't need to be brilliant or perfect. You only need to be real. Thank you for walking with me. If this gave you peace, I'd love if you subscribed. There are many more quiet histories to whisper. Until next time, sleep softly. But we are not yet finished. Let me guide you deeper into this fog-soaked Paris, where the candlelight flickers longer, and the stories thicken like smoke above cobblestone streets. We walked now not only with Renee and André, but with a whole generation who lived in quiet rebellion against a world that had changed too fast, and healed too little. In another corner of the city, a surrealist salon met every Thursday night in the attic of an aging hotel near Rue de Vaugirard. They called themselves Les Réveillés, the Awakened, but irony clung to the name. Most of them were half asleep in opium haze or distracted by absinthe dreams. One of the newer attendees was a young writer named Lisette. She never spoke. She only listened and watched. Her notebook overflowed with other people's voices, snippets of broken philosophies, anguish disguised as metaphors, the occasional cough that hinted at lung damage. They were all there, inked in shaky lines. Her brother had died in the war. Her father had vanished. Her silence wasn't shyness, it was preservation. One night, a painter spilled turpentine on his own canvas and declared it done. Another, a cellist, brought no instrument, only a bottle of laudanum, which he shared with Lisette. It would be her first time, not her last. These salons weren't formal, they were fractures, pockets of beautiful collapse, where pain wore lipstick and tragedy sipped wine. And yet, beneath it all, hope shimmered, faint, fragile, but alive. We'll stay here for a while, in the salons, in the whispers, in the notes Lisette never shared, in the quiet places between overdose and awakening. It is the spring of 1923. The air in Montparnasse carries the scent of tobacco.
wine, and damp cobblestones. The Great War has ended, but its echoes are still alive, in the hearts of men, in the tremors of women, in the faces of strangers on every Parisian street. Nostalgic. In cafes tucked behind bookstores and fading apartment blocks, a new generation is gathering. Poets, painters, soldiers turned storytellers, refugees of their own minds. Some seek rebirth in color, in words, in music. Others seek oblivion. Let me introduce you to someone. Her name is Renee. She was a nurse in the war, Verdun mostly. Her hands were steady then, her voice sure, but since she arrived in Paris, something in her has shifted. The nights are too quiet now. The screams she once soothed in hospital tents now echo inside her chest, unanswered. She draws in the evenings, sketches that begin as flowers and often end as shadows. André sits in the back of Le Menuet Café, a poet, or so he says. The war took something from him too, not a limb, not an eye, but the rhythm of things. He tries to find it again, in words, in women, and in substances. Heroin, not glamorous, not poetic, just a quiet detour into nothing. No loud drug dens, just murmurs, favors, little trades of pain for peace. It begins as tea, then wine, then whispers. Would you like to feel nothing at all? Renee says yes, not because she is reckless, but because she is tired. They meet each night. A sketchbook, a notebook, a dose, then silence. Empathetic. In that silence, a bond. Not love, not yet, but shared vanishing. The war gave them no medals, only a hunger to forget. Renee's hands begin to tremble. The heroin no longer brings peace, only more need. André's verses become chaos. Beautiful chaos, critics say, but he knows, it's not poetry, it's unraveling. One evening, Renee doesn't come. He waits, an hour, then two. The cafe empties. Still, no Renee. She is gone, whether by death, or escape, or surrender, she is gone. He walks home, opens a window, breathes. It's the first breath in years that doesn't hurt. The poems return, slower, softer, more human. He writes, you don't need the drug to feel, you just need to be willing to feel, even when it hurts. Now, we return to you. Maybe you too have carried something heavy. Maybe you've buried it beneath silence, distraction, or routine. But here, tonight, we remember, you don't need to be brilliant or perfect. You only need to be real. Thank you for walking with me. If this gave you peace, I'd love if you subscribed. There are many more quiet histories to whisper. Until next, let me guide you deeper into this fog-soaked Paris, where the candlelight flickers longer, and the stories thicken like smoke above cobblestone streets. We walk now not only with Renee and André, but with a whole generation who lived in quiet rebellion against a world that had changed too fast and healed too little. We enter now the Salon of Shadows, a dim-lit attic near Rue de Vaugirard. They call themselves Les Réveillés, the Awakened. Irony, really. Most are barely holding on, drifting between memory and morphine. Their leader Etienne once wrote political essays. Now he writes letters to ghosts. Every Thursday they gather, not to perform, but to feel less alone. Lisette watches. Young, silent, brilliant. She scribbles everything. Not for fame, for truth, for memory, for survival. One of her poems ends with the line, even broken clocks cast shadows. Then there's Marcel, a failed violinist with tremors. His hands shake when he drinks, so he drinks more. His music is gone, but he still tunes his bow every morning. A ritual, a memory, a hope. Simone, painter, mother, widow. She lost her husband at Ypres, her son to influenza, her mind to longing. Her paintings are bold, chaotic. She signs them all the same way. Still here. They don't speak of heroin, not directly, but it's there, in the pauses, in the eyes, in the way chairs creak under the weight of what's not said. Some nights they share wine, other nights, stories. Once, Lisette read aloud a dream she had. She was floating in the Seine, face to the moon, surrounded by empty picture frames. She asked, does absence have shape? Simone answered, yes, it looks like us. Across the city, another figure walks alone. Julian, once a battlefield medic, now a street photographer. He never speaks of the war, but every photo he captures seems to echo it. A soldier dancing with a woman in a torn red dress. A boy sitting by a church, eyes too old for his face. Light, always light, caught just before it fades. Julian keeps a notebook, not of words but of silences, spaces between stories, where nothing is said, but everything is understood. One page reads only, Renée Rue du Temple, March 11. She looked peaceful, almost invisible. In the 7th arrondissement, where the iron silhouette of the Eiffel Tower casts long shadows across the Seine, there is a narrow street that disappears into fog. Rue des Doutes, the street of doubts. They say its name was never official. It just appeared on people's lips, whispered like a rumor no one could trace. Taxi drivers avoid it after midnight. Postmen say letters go missing there. And once a child drew the street on a map of Paris, though he'd never been. Here we meet Elise, a sculptor of bone-thin porcelain figures. Her studio smells of dust, old flowers and kiln smoke. She has not spoken to her sister in 12 years, not since the telegram arrived, not since she chose the studio over the funeral. Every night she creates a new figure. None of them have faces. They sit in rows on crooked shelves, pale and ghost-like in the dim lamplight. Why? Because no face can hold the truth, she says. And when she says it, she doesn't look at you. She looks at the unfinished figure in her hand, as if it's about to answer. One evening she sculpts until dawn. Her hands are blistered, her back stiff, but the figure before her is different. It looks like someone she tried to forget. It looks like her sister. Not perfectly, but enough to make her drop the tool. She locks it in a wooden box, hides it under the floorboards beneath the third tile from the window. But in the weeks that follow, she swears it whispers at night. A voice like memory, soft, accusing. Down the street lives Baptiste. He used to teach philosophy at the Sorbonne. Now he writes letters to students he'll never meet. He leaves them in cafe napkin holders, in coat pockets, in books left open at page 34. His favorite quote, "Freedom is not a gift, it's a wound you choose to wear openly." He believes ideas are seeds, and he scatters them like a farmer in spring. Every morning he reads Le Figaro at Café Lilas and leaves behind a new letter. He signs them, Le Passant, the passerby. No return address, no name, just the weight of words. Some letters are never found. Others spark love affairs, panic attacks, small revolutions. One woman read his words and quit her job. Another started painting again. A young man who found a note in a library aisle later stood on a bridge for hours and stepped back. Baptiste walks past Elise's studio every Thursday. They never speak, but once their eyes met through the glass, and for a moment, both forgot what day it was, as if the silence between them contained a whole forgotten language. On one particular Thursday, he left a letter wedged into the cracks of her studio door. Elise never opened it, but she didn't throw it away either. She placed it beside the box under the floor. A storm arrived weeks later, the kind that makes the Seine rise with hunger. Wind danced through alleyways like it was searching for something lost. Elise's studio window shattered at midnight. Rain entered like memory. With trembling hands she pulled up the floorboard, not for the statue, but for the letter. It was damp, but the ink survived. Reading quietly, to the one who watches but never speaks. I've seen the way your hands move when you think no one is looking. You hold pain like it's porcelain, delicate, precise, unbearable. I too have chosen silence over regret. I too have built monuments from the past. If you ever wish to speak, I will listen. I have always been listening. Le Passant. That night, Elise didn't sculpt. She made tea. She sat by the broken window and watched the storm. And she whispered, maybe. Part 3. The Metro Violinist. Beneath the city of lights, where trains moan through tunnels like sighs of old ghosts, there stands a man on line 6, station Passy, hour 2:17 a.m. His name is Léon. He is blind, but not from birth. He remembers color. He remembers sunlight through a red curtain. He remembers the exact green of absinthe in a glass. And he remembers the moment it all went dark. A shell in the Argonne. Autumn 1916. Leon plays the violin, not for coins, not for praise, but because sound is his last language. His bow knows sorrow, and his fingers still dream in music. Few passengers come at that hour, mostly drunk students, night shift workers, sometimes no one at all. But still, he plays. Every night, same corner, same silence, until one evening, the silence changes. A voice, clear, female, play something happy. He pauses. No one has requested a song in years. He lifts his head, not to see, but to feel. The voice smells like jasmine and ink. Happy is dangerous, he says. The girl, her name is Camille, sits beside him. She's 19, wears her father's old coat, carries a book she's never read. She doesn't know why she stopped, only that the music made her chest ache. Play anyway, she whispers. Soft violin fades in, gentle, nostalgic, reflective, tender, a song no one knows but everyone remembers. And Camille cries, quietly, not for any one thing, but for all of them at once. The train passes, empty. Another comes, also empty. She stays. At 3:02 a.m., she leaves a drawing on his violin case, a portrait of him, playing, eyes closed, surrounded by stars. Leon doesn't see it, but he touches the paper, feels the ink ridges, and smiles. The next night, he plays again, and waits. Part 4. Le Couloir des Silence. Deep in the 14th arrondissement, past the cafes where jazz once spilled like wine onto cobblestone, lies a forgotten hospital, or what remains of one. Its wings are shuttered, its windows clouded, but the eastern corridor, Le Couloir des Silence, is still open. It was never meant for patients, not officially. It was where they took those who didn't fit diagnosis, the ones who spoke in metaphors, the ones who painted their pain on walls, the ones who believed silence was a kind of music. Today only one inhabitant remains. Her name is Colette. She is 82. Her file was lost decades ago. The doctors stopped coming. The nurses forgot, but she stayed, out of habit, or fear, or perhaps she became part of the walls themselves. She moves slowly, slippers on cold tile, hair like smoke, eyes like mirrors. Each morning, she arranges stones in the hallway, a new pattern every day. Circles, spirals, arrows pointing nowhere. Why? No one asks, because no one visits, except once a month, when the piano tuner comes. His name is Milo, 47, once played with orchestras. Now, he tunes forgotten instruments. The upright piano at the end of the couloir is the last one still standing. No keys are missing, but they all sound a little tired. Milo never asks questions. He brings her tea, fixes her heater. Once he brought a plant, which Colette named Jean-Paul. It died in a week. She kept it anyway. They don't speak much, but they have rituals. He plays one note when he arrives. She responds by tapping her teacup. He hums when he works. She matches the pitch with her breath. One Tuesday, he finds a note on the piano. Do you believe in ghosts if they still breathe? He writes back, only if they remember music. The next week, Colette speaks for the first time in years. Just one sentence. There was a boy once. He carved poems into the walls. She walks him to a door no one had noticed before. Behind it, hundreds of lines etched into plaster. Not names, not madness, just verses. Some rhyme, others don't. One says, the opposite of war isn't peace, it's memory. Milo photographs the walls, slowly, reverently, as if archiving ghosts. That night the city loses power. All of Paris goes dark, except the couloir, where Colette lights candles in every window, and Milo plays.